Hey everybody, welcome back to Cookie Gaming. Today we're playing Pentiment. Now this is one recommended by you guys that I actually hadn't heard of before, and I still don't know much about it now, except for the fact that it's a historical game set in medieval Bavaria. Right? That sounds pretty interesting to me. If you guys don't know, I've got a master's degree in history. Now I'm not an expert in medieval European history, that is not my field, but I do always find it interesting to see how games interpret and portray particular types of history, how they fictionalize it, how they show us certain characters and events, so I'm sure there'll be a lot to yap about during this playthrough. Also, this game is made by Obsidian, who made some really classic RPGs, including Fallout New Vegas, one of my favorite games of all time. So, needless to say, my interest has been piqued. I'm really excited to get into it. So, with all of that, let's jump right into Pentiment. Alright, new game. Let's do stylized fonts. I don't mind that. Adds to the immersion. What do we have here? Oh, I see. We're erasing the text, presumably to write over it like many medieval monks used to do. Come on. There we go. Let's write a new story, huh? Right, I'm excited. Obsidian. Pentiment. Oh man. Oh, Lingua Ignota. I like her music. And by the way, if any of you guys know more about medieval history, feel free to leave stuff in the comments below. I always like to learn about really any kind of history. Bavaria, 1518. Quite an exciting moment in Central European history. Some would say chaotic. An artist sleeps. An artist's mind. Okay. Oh wow. The art's pretty cool. Andreas. And the abbot said to me, Andreas. Ooh, we get to choose. Click underline word to access glossary. Okay. Interesting. So what did the abbot say to me? Oh, we get to shape the story here. The abbot said, keep your conversations with Brother Piero to a minimum. Beatrice. Brother Piero is such a source of wisdom and encouragement for you, though. Indeed, but the rule... Oh, Socrates? What the hell? We've got Socrates here in our mind palace. Let's see. Ah, here we go. The rule. The Rule of Saint Benedict of Nursia is a book of instructions for monks living together under the guidance of an abbot. Written in the 6th century, the rule provides the principles for living a monastic life. I love any game that's got a genuine historical glossary in it. That's good stuff. It's like in, Morrowind, when you gotta click into underline words. But I've only played a little bit of Morrowind. Maybe we'll play it on the channel at some point. Indeed, but the rule of the Christian contemplative life demands that the brothers not engage in idle chatter. Saint Grobian. I don't think I'm familiar with Grobian. Jesus Christ, what a pack of dullards. Be happy you're only stuck there for a few more months, Andreas. Can we click on Jesus here? No, it's just highlighted. Prester John. Wow, what a collection. Beatrice St. Grobian. I don't know those two. We've got Socrates and Prester John. For those that don't know, Prester John was this sort of medieval European myth about a Christian king who could be found out east, right? Now, this out east was pretty broad. Initially, they thought this Christian king might be found in India. Then they sort of looked throughout Asia, eventually decided he'd be in Africa. Now, of course, there was a Christian kingdom in Africa, Ethiopia, but Prester John himself, this was sort of a mythical character who a lot of European Christians were hoping they'd one day find. So here we've got Prester John. How did you reply to the abbot, Andreas? Oh, interesting. Alright, so we're an artist. I replied that the rule was for him, not for me. I'm an artist, not a monk. And thank Christ for that. Haha. Yeah, okay, so Christ is highlighted. And God? Yeah. Interesting. So we've got here the mind palace of a medieval Christian, where it's interesting because we've got Socrates here, who of course was not a Christian, in fact was denounced, by some later Christian thinkers as a pagan heretic, and yet by others, his writing was still remembered. He was of course still very influential. So here we've his Socrates contextualized in sort of a Christian mindset, right? Which is interesting. He's calling to God. Yours is to your labor, or his calling is to God. Yours is to your labor and the illumination that it brings. It's the abbot's house, so everyone has to play by his rules, or rather, the rule. Despite the abbot's ire, you must endure. Soon you will have finished both the abbot's work as well as your masterpiece. Okay, I wonder what our masterpiece is. And then you will return to Nuremberg, where marriage and your new life as a master await you. So we're like some type of journeyman artist, I'm gathering. Let's see what information we get. Oop. Sorry about that. Free imperial city of the Holy Roman Empire, major trade center and city of arts, including printing. Now that's going to be relevant in the year 1518. Printing has just become pretty important. Marriage to someone he has never met, hardly ideal. Well, the alternative is becoming a philosopher. Oh, Jesus, then you should definitely get married. Is she pretty, at least? So we've got some type of arranged marriage. Small portrait they sent was lovely, but we artists can be flatterers. It's growing late. The wheel of time stops for no man, Andreas. I fear you must leave us. True, your majesty. I like that we're holding court here with, I guess, some of our sort of intellectual inspirations. And we're in the court of Prester John. What a beautiful scene, by the way. Will you visit us again soon? Hopefully, but it's out of my control, your majesty. As are many things. Trust in Providence. Grobian, please see Andreas safely home. Of course, your majesty. Until next time, Andreas. Until next time, your majesty. Wow, look at this boat of fools. Pay no mind to the other fools, Andreas. I never do. Ow! Stomped on me. At least I would if they would stop stepping on my feet. Watch where you're going. Yeah, they're fools, Andreas. No point trying to teach them anything. I love this little guy down here. What a pack of weirdos. I know old John wants you to endure the abbot shit, but since I take you home, I get the last word. Won't let him run you ragged, boy. Oh, interesting. We can determine our approach. I don't like getting pushed around. You know what? I won't. The abbot can't push me around. That's what I like to hear. Ow, my foot. Ah! Would you please Oh my god, we're getting beat up. I give up. Take me home, Grobian. As you wish, Andreas. Ah, here we are. Good morning, Ursula. Gumander. Baby talk. Time to get up. Looks like it, Andreas. Time to face the day. 1. The Baron. April 1518. Quick journal tab to access quests. Oh, interesting. So here we are, Andreas Mahler, Nuremberg. We've got our quests. Another day, another few pages for the abbot, hopefully a few for myself. Need to get across town and head up to the abbey so I can start work at the scriptorium. Are we a writer, a scribe, perhaps? Oh, interesting. Got a... Oh my. Tassing? Guys, look. You know, I mean, feel free to correct any sort of German pronunciation. I'm not promising it's going to be good. It's not. Outer Tassing. Oh, interesting. This is our location then. And we need to get up to the Abbey. This is the center of the city. The Abbey, which is where we need to go. And then we've got a much broader map. Tassing. Right, really right in the middle here of Central Europe. We're in close proximity to a lot of important cities here. Okay. Don't spend too much time looking at the map. Oh, interesting. Okay. People. Brother Piero of Verona. Artist of Kearsaw Abbey, known for his kindness and helpful nature. Brother Piero is also respected as a master painter, specializing in works of extraordinary color. Okay, interesting. So, a monk and a painter. And Ursula Gertnerin, daughter of Peter and Clara, half-sister of Ava and Big Jorg. Okay. And then our glossary. Oh my. Lots of reading to do. Okay. That can be helpful. Alright. Now look, I said this when we did the Disco Elysium playthrough as well. I'm pretty detail-oriented, so I'm going to be looking at everything during the playthrough. If you're looking for someone to sort of speed through, this, you know, might not be the playthrough for you, which is fine. Okay, let's see. I really should clean this up. The Picatrix, Key of Solomon, the Heptameron, Friar Ferenc keeps giving me all these books to read. Ferenc, who's this? Okay, interesting. So sometimes we do get a description, sometimes an image here. Okay. Let me see. We've got... Oh, let's not go to bed. Okay, point and click. We can also move with the keys. Let's go. Hello, Ursula. I wonder if this would be better with controller. Maybe I'll try that next time. Clara! Hello? Good morning, Andreas. Did you sleep well? What's going on with the... I like the incorrect spellings here. Quite well, actually. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. Anyway, I know you'll be off to the Abbey, so I packed you some food. Almonds, cheese, and some of the rye you like from the Albans. Otto wanted me to ask you to join him for dinner at the Abbey. Who's Otto? This fella here? Okay. Otto stopped by. Yes, around dawn. Sounds like a pretty good lunch they've packed us. We're eating pretty well. Here you are, Andreas. That's too kind of you, Clara. Many thanks. Master Andreas, if it wouldn't be too much trouble, could could we... What? Oh my goodness, now I see why I'm getting the packed lunch. They want rent. Would it be too much trouble if you paid next month's rent today? Sorry, I'm getting scammed here. How much money is that? Groschen. A type of thick silver coin minted throughout the Holy Roman Empire. Groschen are typically worth 12 pfennigs, but may be minted at different values. Yet, to my understanding, and once again, this is not my era of history, but the Holy Roman Empire did not have any type of uniform currency. In fact, since it was in some way, there was a lot of trade going through, right? You could find a lot of different currencies, none really uniform. So I guess, but there were currencies that you'd find in more than one place, right? That's not to say that every little fiefdom necessarily had their own thing going, but there was not really any sort of uniformity among the currency. So a groschen. I don't know how much 2 groschen is. We'll have to judge based on Andreas' reaction. I hate to ask, but we're behind in our taxes to the Abbey. 2 months behind. Peter's losing his hair over it. Even more than usual, I mean. Okay, there's Peter. I don't know, can I afford this? What is this? I'm not sure how to respond to this. Rent wasn't due until the beginning of May. Oh, fascinating. Oh, wow. So, every game I play is Disco Elysium. No, we've got the different influences in our head, pushing us in one direction or another. We've got Beatrice telling us to be generous. Socrates, I guess, telling us to weigh the action. And Grobian, who's saying, well, why is this our problem? We'll go with, you must take the consequences of an action into account. You're under no obligation to pay, but the Gertners will suffer for it. I want to help them, but I don't want to be taken advantage of. I'm curious about this. I don't, I don't know if these are going to take me, if I'm making a decision, or if I want to ask this. Well, wait, were these taxes unexpected? Peter says our taxes didn't go up for years, but ever since we've been married, it's just gone up and up. It used to be that if we didn't have the money, we could make payment in kind with some of our crops, right? So we're in an era when, of course, we have currency, primarily coins, right? And that currency is still based on specie or bullion, aka silver or gold, but you do still have payment in kind, right? So paying with crops. Now, that is going to become less and less common over the next couple hundred years, 15, 16, 1700s. It's going to be more and more based on currency. You're even going to get paper currency at one point. But at this point, we're sort of in, it's 1518. I'd call this, and I'm not super familiar with the periodization of this era, but I'd call this late Middle Ages. In fact, you're approaching the early modern era, if not already in the early modern era. So you're on the cusp of modernity in many ways, but still in a very medieval and feudal world. And so you'll see a lot of that as we go. Well, I imagine, I don't know what we're gonna see. I'm yapping, The abbot stopped that last year. Now, if we don't get a good price from the miller, it's hard to give the abbey its share. Right, because there's only certain places you could actually get your money, your coin money from. Right, you're still living in a society where many things are paid in kind. You go buy crops, bartering. You might not use that much money, but you might need coin money to pay your taxes, in which case you're going to need to get that money from somewhere. No, it's not your problem, Andreas and Peter. Misspelled. Is this... I wonder if it's happening here because we're talking to someone... I mean, obviously it's not being written, so it's maybe not about their literacy, but maybe it's to represent the more common speech pattern of the person we're talking to, or something like that. I don't know. Peter's too proud to ask you himself. Could you find it in your heart to help us out? Yeah. I mean, once again, I don't know how much money we have, so I don't want to screw Andreas over, but I'd be inclined to say, of course, it's no problem at all. Besides, we wouldn't want Peter to lose any more of his precious hair. God bless you, Andreas, and may St. Luke watch over you today. Let's see, St. Luke, Christian evangelist and patron saint of artists and physicians, often represented by a winged bull. Oh, perfect then. Our patron saint. I'm sure he shall. Speaking of St. Luke, how's your masterpiece coming along? It's been 2 months now, hasn't it? Wow. Slowly, I'm afraid. Most of my days are spent doing work for the Abbey. It's only during the Divine Office that Prior Ferenc allows me to work on my masterpiece. Okay, what's the Divine Office? You've got Ferenc here. Ferenc, I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm sorry. Divine Office. The prayer times observed by all Christian monastic orders. Monks and nuns pray together 7 times a day and once at night, as dictated by the rule of Saint Benedict, which we've heard about. So prayer times. Okay. So when the monks are off praying, we get a chance to work on our masterpiece. Whatever that is. A reasonable restriction, but slow going. The city council doesn't require it to become a master. I'm making it mostly to show clients, and for my own sake. And yes, when I do finish, I will go back to Nuremberg, where I will marry and open a workshop of my own. I still don't know exactly what type of artist we are. From Nuremberg to a university, and now traveling the world as an artist. The life you have ahead of you, Master Andreas. Yes, I suppose it does feel like I'm starting a new chapter in my life after a few missteps. um, let's say some wandering. As Tolkien said, not all who wander are lost. So, I don't know if wandering's a bad thing necessarily. It must be rather frightening, starting all over again. And that's, I mean, look, it's frightening today starting over again, but especially in a world like this, most people did not leave the place they were born. Now, for a variety of reasons, people might, but most people stayed around the area they were born in for their entire lives, right? So to be someone who traveled to new places, started anew, that was something pretty exceptional. And once again, that's, still something that can be scary to people today. I'd rather go for a sort of personal motivation. It is frightening, but I know now that this is what I want to do. This will be remembered. Not many people get to decide that. Maybe I went with a more modern framing rather than appealing to sort of family. I appealed to my own individual desire. Certainly not anyone in Tassing. Anyway, I don't know anything about art, but I've seen you sketching such beautiful things in your little book. Your masterpiece must be wonderful. It's getting there. Hard work will get you all the way. That's what my father used to say, God rest his soul. Now I have to go get back to my own work. Have a good day at the Abbey, Andreas, and we'll see you after Vespers for supper. Vespers, monastic hour at dusk, one of the major prayer hours. It is followed by supper. Okay. Not tonight, but thank you. Klaus Drucker invited me over for supper. Who's this? Looks like a regular fella. Of course. Please say hello to the Druckers for us. Of course. Until later, Clara. Interesting. Wonder if we can talk to Ava as well. Hello, Andreas. Hello? Alright, seems like that's that. I feel like we picked up a bunch more. Interesting. Can I? Okay, I can. I was like, I must be able to, switch back and forth a little faster. Okay. Okay, we can get more information on some of these people. Clara, who we just talked to, second wife of Peter, mother of Ursula, known for her kindness and her concern for her husband's health. Well, that's nice. Let's see, Peter. Got Ursula, the kid. Peter, husband of Clara, father of Big Jorg, Ava, and Ursula. Okay. Known for his temper. Okay. And his dislike of the Abbey. And Lenhart Mueller. Might have been good to know some of that during that conversation. Okay. Right, so Ava is daughter of Peter and his late wife Christine. Largely raised by her brother and her father. Okay, interesting. So Clara is the second wife. Sort of the, I don't know if they'd think of it like this in medieval times, but the stepmom of Ava, who looks pretty old, I'd guess, pretty grown up. Her dad is Peter. Otto Zimmerman, town carpenter and son of old Otto, known for his dislike of the Abbey, especially Father Gernot, or Gernot. A lot of dislike of the Abbey here. Prior Ferenc of Pex. Originally from Hungary, Ferenc is the prior of Kearsarge Abbey and is responsible for running the scriptorium, known for his interest in esoteric books. That's why we got all those books from him. That makes sense. And then Klaus, the Tassing town printer, husband to his wife Marie, father to Bertolt. Though Tassing is an unusual place for a printing press, he does brisk trade with pilgrims and other travelers on the Imperial Road. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, this was a real center point of trade through Europe, right? We're in Central Europe, we're in the middle, so there was a lot of trade through these lands in many things. Is that Big Jorg over there? Or maybe it's Big George in English. Oh. Morning, Andreas. I didn't mean to get into a conversation with you. Morning, Big Jorg. How's it going? You working today? Just taking a rest for a bit. Dad's still in the fields. He had a rock with the plow, and it took me Lord knows how long to pull it out. You off to the Abbey? Every day but Sunday. Right. Thank God for Sundays. Smells like a storm's coming, no? Yeah, a metaphorical storm. Huh. This smells like fresh alpine air to me. You've been traveling too much. Where was it you spent your Wanderjahre? Wandering years. Okay. Wandering years, during which a journeyman artist or craftsman travels far and wide to improve their skills. Before you came to Tassing. Oh! Oh, now this is exciting. Pick a background that will affect your character's choices going forward. Interesting. Go with Basil or Basil, which would mean Andreas knows some Italian and French and can reference cultural touchstones from Basel in nearby Bern, Zurich, and Freiburg. Okay, we're getting a little Swiss with it. The Low Countries, Andreas knows some Dutch and French and can reference cultural touchstones from Antwerp, Bruges, and Ghent. Sorry about the pronunciation. Or Italy. Andreas knows Italian, a little Greek, and can reference cultural touchstones from Florence, Venice, and Milan. I mean, I feel like the first two are more useful, but guys, you know, I'm so tempted to go with Italy. In fact, I'm gonna go with Italy. I like Andreas being in connection with the classical roots. Italian, a bit of Greek, right? I imagine due to that connection to the Byzantines out in the east. Well, not the Byzantines anymore. Of course, the Byzantine Empire had fallen, but still some of that Byzantine history, culture, right? Which was a big influence on Italy, of course. You know, at this point, the Ottomans controlled Constantinople. We'll go with Italy. Italy. Florence for a while, but Venice and Milan as well. Milan. I've been to Milan once as a kid. One of the largest cities in Europe. Milan was once a major city-state in the Italian peninsula before becoming part of the Spanish Habsburg Empire. It is an economic and cultural power due to its position along central trade routes. Yeah, well, we've got three important cities here. Of course, Milan had been an important city even back in the ancient world. After Rome became less important, a few other cities took up that status. Milan was one of them, or sort of ancient Milan. And of course, Milan, especially right here, Venice. I mean, these were some very powerful Italian cities and states who made a lot of money from trade, right? Trade routes in particular. The Venetians, right? They made a lot of money from taking Byzantine trade routes out east, right? I just mentioned that Byzantine influence. Of course, the empire itself is gone, the Byzantine Empire, but Venice made a lot of money from that. Florence, home to the powerful Medici family, who ruled the city for centuries. Florence is known for its artistic patronage, hosting artists and thinkers including Michelangelo, Da Vinci, Botticelli, and Machiavelli. Yeah, I mean, look, we're talking about Renaissance Italy here. I didn't even think of that, but hey, another good reason to be in Italy at this time. A time of high culture, art, Renaissance in Italy. Some of your most famous artists and thinkers of the time period. And then Venice, one of the most powerful republics on the Italian peninsula, sitting on the northwest coast of the Adriatic Sea. Venice is a major center for commerce and art in southern Europe. Very true, very true. Italy? No wonder your senses are dull. You've been down there for too long. Maybe so. I will say, like I said, I don't know if Italy was the most practical choice, because a big loss is that the other two gave me a bit of French, and knowing French was very important in this time in European history, in a lot of places. But I wanted that Italian. I wanted that Renaissance Italy experience, so you can't blame me. Spend enough time in these mountains, and you'll be able to smell a storm coming. How long will that take? I feel like for a young artist like Andreas, Italy, quite the place to be. 10, 15 years? I don't think I have that long, Big Jorg. What'd you spend all that time in Italy doing, anyway? Other than art, I mean. Ooh! Oh, this is good. This is really good. I love this. So, we can be a hedonist. Andreas seeks out pleasure wherever he goes. He's extremely social and quite experienced in all the enjoyable vices of the world. That would fit with Italy. Craftsman. Andreas lives to work and dedicates all of his time to his art. Bookworm. Andreas spends all his non-working free time finding and reading as many books as he possibly can. That's tempting, mainly because I identify with that. Rapscallion. Andreas has a penchant for getting involved in petty schemes, pranks, minor crimes, and fistfights. Or businessman. Andreas devotes much of his time to self-promotion, optimizing business expenses, making investments, and balancing his books. I'd go either bookworm or hedonist, which I know are sort of opposites in many ways. I like bookworm. If you can't already tell from the, half an hour we've been playing, I like to learn all the information. I like to dig in. So I think bookworm's going to help me out in that respect. And plus, hey, if you're a bookworm, Italy was a fantastic place to be during this time period. Reading mostly, and talking about books, I couldn't get enough of it. Yeah, Venice is filled with incredible printers. Florence continues to illuminate beautiful manuscripts. Okay, I just wanted to check there wasn't any new information that we were missing. And the books they produce are treasures. Every one. Yeah, I mean, this is a time period. Of course, we do have, a more wide-scale printing emerging, which is actually pretty important to the political developments of this time. Like the Reformation, for example, the Gutenberg Bible, all that good stuff. But this is still a time when every book is a treasure, right? I mean, most people could not read. The only book an individual family might be the Bible, and a lot of families wouldn't even have that, especially Catholic families, right? And so having a book was a really precious thing, and when people owned a book, they would really treasure that book. I didn't realize that books meant that much to you. I've seen Father Thomas's Bible and a few other books. I haven't had much use for reading, though. Fair enough. Father Thomas. Portly fellow. Anyway, I've got to get going. Jorg, let's go. Dad's already acting like I'm taking too long, even though I did all the work to get that rock out. See you later, Andreas. Later. Okay. Maybe we'll talk to Peter before we go to the town commons. Ill Peter. Oh my goodness. So much happening. Andreas? Nothing to say to me, Peter? No. What about Ill Peter? God bless you. Ah. Andreas. Ah, oh yes, Andreas. This weather's been god-awful. This town's gone to shit since my days. Uh-huh. Were things very different when you were young? As different as beer and piss. I doubt that, Ill Peter. The old abbot didn't bother as much about our customs. He didn't mind if we left a little offering to Perchta to keep the skies clear, the weather fair. Or Perchta, pagan goddess of the Alps associated with animals and spinning wool. She's still invoked by some Christians in Austria, Switzerland, Bavaria, and Swabia. Perchta, no, probably Perchta, a hard C perhaps. Yeah, so we see here, I mean, look, Europe, especially Central Europe, has been thoroughly Christianized at this point. And of course, there's going to be there's a split occurring right as this game is taking place. Anyway, it's thoroughly Christianized, but that doesn't mean that no pagan traditions survived, right? All that means is a lot of pagan traditions went underground, a lot of them did disappear, and some of them were sort of integrated into Christianity, right? I mean, one of the things that makes religions like Christianity or Islam so popular is they're adaptable. They adapt to the local conditions, which can sometimes mean allowing people to keep some of their pagan practices, right? So he's saying the old abbot, you know, he didn't mind if they left a little offering to their pagan goddess. I'm sure he didn't love it, but he understood the reality of the situation, right? And this was the case for a lot of communities around Europe. They had these old pagan practices. Now, you know, this guy, he's identified. He knows that it's this old pagan practice. But I'll say, there were a lot of these practices, traditional practices, that people didn't even know used to be pagan practices anymore. They were just part of their lives, or as far as they were concerned, part of their Christian faith. And when priests came along and said, you can't do this, you can't do that, they were like, what do you mean? This is what we've always been doing, right? So yeah, interesting stuff. Matthias knew that God, Christ, was in our hearts, even if the white lady's name was on our lips. Saint Moritz. Patron saint of Tassing. Okay. Legend states he was the Egyptian-born commander of a Roman legion who converted to Christianity. They were all martyred for their faith. His hand is a relic in Kearsaw's shrine. Martyred for their faith. Were they killed by other Roman legions? Is that the time period we're talking about? God, I feel like, you know, I'm like a history guy playing this game, but I bet if you're like a religious scholar, there'd be a lot of cool tidbits for you here. Yeah, what sort of old customs? Kind that scare away witches and keep spirits from calling storm clouds over our farms. Of course, witches were still a concern at this point. Saints weren't the first to watch over Tassing. My father knew that. Old Ronnie Kemper knew that. Late husband of Ottilia. That bastard abbot may not like it, but some of us keep the traditions alive. Man, I wish I could go with all three options. What do these traditions entail? When you get up in the night to take a piss, go around the right side of the house and never go back the same way. That way the witches don't steal your soul. Once again, there were a lot of superstitions, especially about witches, that people sometimes recognized as old pagan traditions, but they still kept them alive, and sometimes they thought it was a perfectly Christian tradition, but of course it had its roots in an older local practice. Oh, how interesting. I should go. Alright, God bless you. Fascinating. Okay, so we can't go this way. Okay, interesting. I've just been clicking around so far. Alright. Let's go. Whoa! How exciting. We're in the center of town, eh? Let me take a look at our map. So, yeah, we've come from, I guess, south. And we need to go to the Abbey. Which is to our east, perhaps? Well, it's somewhere. We'll figure it out. Let's see. Blacksmith. Andreas Schmidt Smithy. So much smaller than the one he uses at the Abbey. Let's talk to Andreas. Oh, Andreas. Good timing. Give a moment to lend me a hand? Yeah, why not? Wonderful. I've got too many irons in the fire. Or rather, shoes. Horseshoes. I miscounted how many I put in. Now I need a hand, else they'll overheat, and I won't be able to work the metal. Here, take the shoe and the tongs. Put the hot part of the shoe on the anvil, and I'll hit it with the hammer. Oh, I see. Well, we're learning to be a blacksmith. I mean, hey, horseshoes is an important task for the local blacksmith. There we go. Great. Thanks for the help, Andreas. I don't know what I was thinking doing all this at once. I think you need an apprentice, Andreas. Huh. It sure would be nice to have someone to help me out every day. Well. Ha! A child. Well, that's what I was thinking. Have you considered an apprentice? I have. None of the boys in the village seem interested. Well, just force one of them. Keep at him. I bet you could get Bert Drucker. You've already heard about the Druckers. But he's pretty young. Ah, Klaus would have my head if I tried. Anyway, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I'll see you and Otto up by the Abbey guest house for dinner. Till then. Where's our list of characters? Here we go. Right, he's the printer. Of course, he'd want his son to do that. And maybe it's not clear at the moment, but printing is a growing profession. Yeah, son of Klaus and Marie, and Big Jorg, son of Peter and his late wife Christine, called Big because he's the biggest man in town. Hey, that was a feat back in the day. Town blacksmith. Okay. The elderly father of Peter Gertner. Okay. Ill Peter is perpetually on death's door. Continues to work the field in spite of it. He's the oldest man in town. Fair enough. Lorenz Rothvogel? Baron of Rothvogel from near Worms, patron of Kearsarge Abbey, lover of books and art. The Baron of Rothvogel. Interesting. And then Miklas Haberla, Swabian servant of the Baron. Okay, interesting. Father Thomas, town priest. Tends to his flock at Our Lady of the Labyrinth. Okay, interesting. So he's our town priest. Oh, hey, we've got our different traits we're building up. So we spent time in Italy, and we're a nerd. Fair enough. Ooh, what's going on over there? Oh, whoa! Oh my goodness. There's some depth to this. Martin, please, can you give me a hand here? What do you want? I'm keeping an eye on them. That looks a lot like standing there and doing nothing. Martin, for Christ's sake, help your cousin. Ah, morning, Andreas. Excuse us. One of the fence rails fell and the sheep started hopping it. Should I offer to help? I already helped the damn blacksmith. Martin seems like a good-for-nothing layabout. That idiot Martin should be helping them. Yell at him. Give him a good scare. Oh. That's presumptuous. I'm not close to their family. Okay, maybe that'd be overstepping. I'll just try and stay out of your way. Thanks. It'll probably take an hour or two to track them all down at this rate. Blood sacrament. Damn it, Veronica. What did I say about blasphemy? Sorry, Mom. Look, I like to be helpful, but at the same time, apparently we're already late, so I don't want to push my luck. Oh, look, there's something going on up at the Steinauer's place. Oh, that's the Baron. He's getting a talking to. Who's that on the horse? Looks rich. Shut up, Martin. I don't know, Martin. But Lucky is giving him an earful. Christ, I haven't seen Lucky that worked up since Peter and Clara's wedding, when Johann pulled his pants down. Yeah, we know Clara. We know Peter. Johann. Sounds like a ne'er-do-well, I have to say. Not to a man's teeth out. You don't want to feel the strength behind a stonemason's anger. You think he's a noble? He looks really rich. God damn it, Martin. Stay out of trouble for once. What aren't you? Behave yourself. Don't we have enough to deal with right now? Andreas, if you wouldn't mind moving your skinny little body up the road, we need to get these sheep under control. Of course. See you later. Don't work too hard, Martin. Huh. Will be remembered. Uh-oh. I want to see what's going on up there. I like that the like invisible walls of this game are sheep. Blocking our way. Drucker house. Let's break in. Hey, here's Klaus. Ha! It's typeface because he's a printer. That's very funny. Oh, that's good. God, the art is really cool in this game, and the little details are fun. Morning, Andreas. How's it going? Morning. Oh, interesting. And I'm just... Not that I had necessarily noticed it before, but just the contrast. When our text comes up, you know, there's writing, scribbling, right? Like we're writing versus Klaus here. Morning, Klaus. Another day at the Abbey. Another few hours to work on my masterpiece. Good to... Oh, wow. And with Klaus, the darkness of the text is variable because it's printing like ink, right? Like when you print, you're gonna have some patches that are darker than others, heavier. That's so fun. Good to hear. You still coming by for supper tonight? Marie and Bert would love to see you. We've heard about Marie. Oh, okay. And then young Bert. Yeah, and you can hear the sound when his text comes up. You really need to see these new woodcuts I have for an Italian edition of Till Eulenspiegel, the titular character of a popular 15th century book. Till is a prankster, continually exposing the vices and hypocrisy of others. He's also quite skilled at tricking people into smelling, touching, or eating his excrement. Oh god. Sounds like a real character. I will say woodcuts, sort of a forgotten art of this medieval era. You know, a lot of art was done by woodcut. And of course, especially if you're doing printing, you're going to need a woodcut and engraving to sort of start as your base, right? So a really fascinating art form from this era. I didn't realize Father Thomas let you print books in Italian. Come on, Andreas, he's not that strict. I know he's just trying to protect people from... your sloppy typesetting. Adventure stories of questionable moral repute. He doesn't mind those so much, actually. No? As long as they don't get too carnal. Ah. So, supper tonight after Vespers? Yeah, of course. Great. I'll tell Marie and Bert you're coming. See you then. See you later. I'm sure I've made this commitment at some point. There's going to be a challenge to that commitment, as there always is. Oh, you're right next to the church. Oh, wow. And a different style of writing. God bless Master Mahler. Hope your week is going well. Mahler. Thank you, Father. It's going quite well. I'm just on my way up the hill to get to work. Good. Andreas, I don't recall seeing you at Sunday morning Mass. You understand how important it is for your salvation that you receive Holy Communion, don't you? Just stayed up too late on Saturday. I don't want to get into an argument with him about this. Interesting. Huh. So, we have Grobian. This asshole can't make you go to Mass. Maybe a little too aggro. Father should appreciate us, and would going to church be such a burden? I'd say we have many duties. Maybe he could appreciate how hard we're working. Almost everyone in town works hard, though. I mean, Andreas said he doesn't want to get into a fight. This is the type of situation where a little white lie is maybe not harmful. Yeah, I apologize. I'll be there this Sunday. You don't have to make a promise to me, but our salvation is contingent on the... Oh, here's the Baron. Oh my, what a blessed day to receive such an illustrious visitor. Master Mahler, this is Lorenz, Baron of Rothvogel, a good lord from the countryside near Worms. Yeah, the imperial free city of Worms, a prosperous free city in the western part of the empire. Located on the Rhine River, Worms has been the site of many imperial diets, and that's one of the reasons it is so well known even today, are the diets, the political decisions being made over there. Good to see you, Father Thomas. It is nice to be remembered fondly. I only wish all of your neighbors were as welcoming. Well, yes. What brings you back to our little town? My wife and I were returning from a trip to Venice. We spent a few days in Innsbruck, and it was terribly dull. Capital of the Austrian county of Tyrol, and major stop on the Imperial Road connecting Italy and Bavaria. It is the closest major city to Kearsarge Abbey in Tassing. Notably, it was also the site of witch trials in 1485. Innsbruck? Okay, a name I'm familiar with. Can't say I know too much about the place. Witch trials, right? So like I said, we've still got witch trials during this era of European history. I think when a lot of Americans think of witch trials, they think of the Salem witch trials up in Massachusetts Bay Colony in the 17th century. But when we talk about, the mass of witch trials, we're talking about witch trials in Europe in the, I believe, mostly sort of 1500s, as in they actually became less common when you got to the 1600s. So this is a time when you still had a fair amount of witch trials. Not without any pushback, but also with a lot of support. I mean, it has a certain charm common to these alpine cities, but the place was crawling with nobles for the emperor's diet. An imperial diet is an assembly of the three colleges of the imperial estates of the Holy Roman Empire. The prince-electors, the princes and dukes, and representatives of the imperial cities. They meet to deliberate on matters of importance to the empire. Right? So this is where maybe it's worth talking a bit about the Holy Roman Empire itself. Right? The Holy Roman Empire, I mean, the famous Voltaire quote is that it wasn't holy, it wasn't Roman, and it wasn't an empire, right? That's the one everybody knows. It really was this conglomeration, this commonwealth of sorts of, I believe hundreds, dozens, if not hundreds, of these little tiny states, polities. You're talking kingdoms, principalities, bishoprics, free cities, all these different little territories that would get together to deliberate these issues that were relevant to the empire, but that also had a lot of autonomy from state to state, right? Not a very uniform state, not a centralized state in the slightest. There was some central authority, the Holy Roman Emperor, an imperial diet, right? But that central authority did not tend to be very strong, especially at this time, right? I mean, the Holy Roman Empire, it's had different phases of its history, but we're talking here about an empire that does not have a lot of central authority. The Emperor? Was he there? Did you see him? Oh, briefly, but he was sitting for a portrait at the time. Quite lovely. I didn't want to bother him or the painter. Let's use our Italian background. How was Venice, my lord? I lived there only a few years ago. Oh, fascinating. Well, the city's Jews now live in their own quarter in the north. The city's artists are still producing wonderful work. Oh man. This is one of those names you read a lot, but you don't know how to pronounce. Titian, in particular, is a god. I don't know. No offense, father. Of course. Titian? No, I know. Oh god. I should know how to pronounce his name. Anyway, my wife wanted to stay a bit longer at Innsbruck, and I decided to ride ahead to make a visit to Kearsarge. I heard Father Matthias died shortly after my last visit, of course. Oh, so how long ago was that? But of Kearsarge before Father Gernot, or Gernot, widely respected by the monks and nuns, as well as the people of Tassing, known for his kindness and his love of books. I mean, sounds like his death was not that long ago. I need like a pronunciation guide with this game. A great loss for the Abbey, and for us all. Indeed. By good fortune, I recently came across a copy of the Historia Tassii, an account of the early history of Tassing. Here says previous abbot Father Matthias had a copy. Baron Rothvogel brought another to the abbey as a gift. Okay, interesting. Historia Tassii. So, Latin, of course, because at this time, especially, well, at this time, not a lot of people were literate. If you were literate, you either were someone of a higher class or you had something to do with the church. And those two things were often integrally combined, right? And so, oftentimes, most of this writing would be done in Latin. Now, the time period this game is taking place in is actually a time in which that was changing, right? With mass printing, right? Once again, I mentioned the Gutenberg Bible earlier, Gutenberg the printer, right? There was this phenomenon where Bibles were being printed and regular people were getting access to the Bible for the first time. And not only was it being printed in Latin, but importantly, it was being printed in vernacular, as in the local languages regular people were using. So, for example, say you're a regular person, or maybe you're an educated individual, maybe an artist, like our friend Andreas here. You're not like one of the higher class individuals, you're sort of middle class. You don't know Latin, right? You're not involved in the church hierarchy or anything. But, you can read. You can read perhaps in your native German. And now you finally have a Bible in German that you can read. That's a pretty big deal. The first time you've had access to the Word of God, just yourself, and not through a priest. And so, while still at this moment, a lot of these writings, history, religious work, everything is going to be in Latin. As the century continues, a lot of this stuff will begin to be published into vernacular languages throughout Europe, and a lot of new texts will be printed in those vernacular languages. Anyway, that's a broader historical trend. Father Matthias was hoping to find a second copy to corroborate the contents of the first. Smart. It contains some fascinating details about the history of this place. I'm afraid they might even cause a bit of a scandal. Okay. Yes. I want to hear about this. But I must be off. There will be time enough to discuss Tassing's past later. I commissioned a manuscript from the Abbey through Father Gurnot, and I have come to check on its progress. There he is. Oh, my lord! If you've come to see your manuscript, you should speak with young Master Mahler here. What? No need to correct him. It's an honor to meet you, my lords. Andreas is a journeyman artist from Nuremberg. For the next few months, he's also helping in the Abbey's scriptorium. A room for writing, illustrating, and illuminating manuscripts. Though typically associated with monasteries, they have disappeared from almost all abbeys by the 16th century. Interesting. I wonder what caused that change. I will say, with the advent of mass printing, of course, a lot of the work that abbeys were doing with maintaining these old manuscripts, with writing, all this sort of stuff, became a little less relevant, because now you could print things. Maybe it's part of that, or maybe there was some other historical force that led to a lot of these scriptoriums disappearing. A Nuremberger artist working in an abbey scriptorium in 1518? Oh, we should talk, Andreas. I must know the story. Don't put yourself down, Andreas. Of course, my lord, it would be an honor. Wonderful. It's so rare to find someone in the countryside who knows anything about art. Thank you for the introduction, Father Thomas. Oh! Okay, there we go. Come to supper at the Abbey tonight. I'm inviting you to the Abbot's table. Did the Abbot invite me? Oh, don't worry about it, Father. Just show up after Vespers. What's he gonna do? Refuse us? Excellent. We will see you then. I've got a prior engagement. Mikolas, I'm dismounting. Run ahead of us and take the horses to the Abbey's guest house. I'd like to take my time talking with Master Mahler. I'll meet you there. Once, my lord. Great. So then, a journeyman from Nuremberg, eh? Forgive me for saying so, but you seem a little old to not yet be a master. Are you unmarried? No, I'm not married, but in truth, I came to my vocation later than my father and brothers. I was in university for a number of years, at Erfurt. Okay. Wow, interesting. So Andreas, he is pretty well-traveled. More than, I think, even your regular journeyman artist or craftsman, well-traveled, educated at university. I gotta say, we're playing as a pretty exceptional individual. You know what I mean? Now, sure, he's not a king or a prince, which I guess is who you usually see depicted in a lot of medieval history or fiction, but this is not a normal guy, right? He's been through some pretty uncommon experiences and training. Erfurt is one of the most populous cities in the Empire, and is located near its heart. It has been home to a respected university since 1379, and is a center for humanist thought. Germany always has had good universities. Erfurt, wonderful! The same university as Martin Luther. Oh, have you read his works? Tremendous mind. Oh, interesting. University of Wittenberg. Is that the same? Priest and professor of theology at the University of Wittenberg. Controversial for his opinions on the church's sale of indulgences to forgive sin, which were recently published and distributed throughout the empire. I mean, this is taking place in 1518. I believe Martin Luther published his 95 Theses in 1517, so literally the previous year, which means we are just at the very beginning of the Reformation, so early that no one really knows what's happening yet, right? In this moment, you would really not be able to look around and say, everything's going to change. People would be like, are you crazy? No, it's not. But that is the case, right? Also the start. And I don't know, I guess we'll see how much history we cover, if we're just going to be in this 1 year, if we've got a longer span of time, I don't know. But over the following years, there's going to be a lot of chaos, war, debate, all this type of stuff. He says things about the church that should have been said years ago. Might get him into trouble, but he's a brave, brilliant man. See, so the Baron here, he sounds like someone who in the following years may become a Lutheran. Maybe not, but sounds pretty sympathetic at least. Wait, you may have even met him. Did you? You must tell me. Ah, no, he was a few years ahead of me. Oh, interesting. Do we want to situate ourselves as a true loyal Catholic? Or a potential Protestant? I mean, guys, I gotta get into the spicy stuff. Still, his ideas do seem fascinating. Uh-oh. I agree wholeheartedly. I simply must meet him if I get the chance. I'm not sure if we should tell the abbot about this. I wonder if the good brothers of the Abbey have heard of him. They probably have, and I don't know if they're gonna be a fan of his. Perhaps they've even read his list of 95 Theses against the church. You're speaking very openly, young Baron, or I don't know how young you are. A list of propositions against the church's practice of selling indulgences for the remission of sin. It was written in 1517 by Martin Luther. For those that don't know, the whole idea of the indulgence was essentially, to really boil it down, there's more religion and ideology here. To simplify it, essentially you're buying your way out of sin. You're buying, in some sense, a free pass. You know, a go home free type of card. Um, that's sort of to simplify it, right? It's more complicated than that. That very much upset some people, including Martin Luther. Father Matthias was not above having a lively debate. I hope Father Gernot does not disappoint in that regard. I don't know, I have not been getting great vibes from what people have said about this guy. But enough about Luther for now. Tell me about your university studies. I mean, I don't think it's crazy he's interested. Forgive me, Baron, but did you attend university? You seem very well educated. No. My family is merely wealthy enough to provided me with all the books and tutors a child could dream of. I will say, we've got what may be some old Roman ruins in the background, an old statue. I wish I had gotten a better look at it, but the name is sort of, not quite there anymore. I love all knowledge, from Aristotle and Cicero to Vicino, and Erasmus, and everyone in between and yet to come. What a selection. We've got both the ancient and the modern with Erasmus there. Aristotle, we'll start with the ancient. Aristotle, very famous, of course, Greek philosopher and student of Plato. Renowned as a polymath, he wrote on a wide variety of subjects. His work is extremely cited by current scholars, and even more work is attributed to him than he could ever have written. This is true. Now we've sort of heard of now our three famous ancient philosophers. The biggest, Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates, who's in our head. All of these very influential on Christian philosophy, right? I talked about earlier how there was a bit of a tension there, where to some Christian thinkers, they did not really like that they were drawing from these old pagan philosophers. But at the same time, many Christian thinkers accepted that, and they integrated the work of Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates into their own thoughts, right? And so they were very influential on the medieval world, perhaps the most influential thinkers of the medieval world, or not of the medieval world, but on the medieval world, along with a whole host of Christian philosophers and theologians of that time. Cicero, we have Greek, we've gone to Rome now, statesman, scholar, lawyer, and renowned orator of the late Roman Republic. He's revered both for his contributions to Latin literature and his skill at rhetoric. Very famous politician from the Roman Republic. Bit of a centrist type. You can decide whether you like that or not. But someone who did fight for the existence of the Republic. Lost in the end, but, he fought for that. Someone who was known for his rhetoric, his speeches, right? And rhetoric is something that the ancient world was obsessed with, right? Because in a time when you do not have mass printing, speaking is just as, if not more important than writing, right? And that was also true for the medieval world as well. Speaking was important, and rhetoric was an important part of education, right? I mean, a lot of education at this time was still based in one way or another on classical education. So rhetoric was a big part of that, really up until the modern era, up until pretty recently. Now rhetoric is not a big part, at least for most of us, of our educations. But for a long time it was, and the sort of, the main, you're talking about rhetoric, your main guy was Cicero, right? So important fellow. Now some two modern thinkers. I'm familiar with Erasmus, right? Erasmus of Rotterdam, a Dutch priest and philosopher who's preeminent among northern humanists. He's known for his works in Latin and Greek, as well as his calls for reform within the church. And to be fair, he wasn't just preeminent among northern humanists, he was preeminent among humanists, right? And humanists of this era, we're talking about this movement that in some ways coincided and corresponded with the Renaissance, with this uptick in interest in the ancient world, the classical texts in art. People went back and not only did they reread these ancient texts, they literally dug them up. They found them in old monasteries, from merchants, wherever. Erasmus was one of those people who was discovering those old ancient texts and sort of reinterpreting them for a medieval era, right? And these humanists, they were religious, yes, just about everybody was during this time period, but they were pretty unique in that they were taking a focus back to the individual, away from the church and the hierarchy and God, and back to the individual human being, right? And of course, humanism is extremely influential on the Enlightenment and really all types of modern philosophy today. And Erasmus is one of the best known of these humanists. And here we've got Ficino or Ficino, who I'm not familiar with, to be honest with you. Marsilio Ficino was a 15th century Italian priest and humanist who was one of the leading figures of the Italian Renaissance. He's well known for his translations of the works of Plato into Latin. Yeah, so, not familiar. Excuse me, like I said, medieval history, I'm not an expert in it. It was not my field of research at graduate school. But seems to fit with the rest of these guys who, like I said, were uncovering these ancient works, translating them, and then reinterpreting them for this modern era. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to learn about the Baron as we go. He certainly seems like an interesting guy. More interesting than I initially thought, so I agree with Andreas. I may have misjudged the Baron. Seems he's as well-read as any university student. In truth, I am simply happy to speak with another well-educated man. Now then, did you earn your doctorate? Oh. What happened there? He didn't. Well, that's probably why he's working as a journeyman artist today, right? No, I didn't. Only a master's degree. I started working towards a doctorate, but didn't finish. Wow, Andreas, you're just like me. I mean, I was not working, and I'm not working towards a doctorate, at least not right now. But like Andreas, I got my master's degree. Don't have a PhD, so we're in the same boat. Well, that's a shame. Well, what was your area of study? I wonder, I'm sure we'll find out more about Andreas' background. I'm curious why he did not finish his course of study. Oh. Ooh. Interesting. Medicine. I mean, I think that could be helpful, but I'm not so interested in it. Law or theology? Both of these could be really useful in the world that we live in. Oh, man. I usually go towards the more political option, but I'm gonna go with theology, because I feel like religion's gonna be a big topic in this game. In fact, I'm sure it is. And I think a strong understanding of Catholic theology, biblical knowledge, canon law, heresies, and other subjects is gonna be pretty helpful. Plus, I think it's interesting, you know, like, when you study other eras of history, you gotta really immerse yourself in how people viewed the world, and to do that at this time, it's gonna be through religion. So we studied theology. Theology, as odd as that may seem, not odd at all. It's a good field of study if you want a position in the church. My late uncle was the abbot of Fulda. I spent many hours reading the manuscripts in their library, with his permission. Town built around an old Benedictine abbey near the center of the empire. Fulda's abbots are imperial princes and wield great power. That's one of the things with the Roman Empire, is you had, for example, bishoprics, aka a sort of religious state run by a bishop or a religious official. Right? So you had a real marriage between political and religious power. I mean, in some ways, that's at the base of the Holy Roman Empire, right? How's it founded? Well, you have the Pope crowning an emperor. So essentially, the Pope using his religious authority and passing some political authority onto a secular figure, the emperor, but a secular figure who also held some religious authority in his own right. You know, I mean, today, many of us, at least in countries like the United States or places in Europe or a lot of the sort of Western world, we think of religious and political authority as pretty separate. Some of us do, at least, not all of us. But this is a world where those authorities were intertwined. They were not separate in the slightest. He was a pious enough man, I suppose, but he wielded great power from that abbey. Oh, hello. Uh-oh. Attilia. We've heard about her, and she is not pleased, I believe, to see the Baron. Uh-oh. You. If I had any faith, I would have prayed you'd never show your face here again. Curse you, Lorenz Rothvogel. Herkta's dogs. Tear you to pieces would be too kind. Tearing you to pieces would be too kind to fate. My god. What the hell? These rustic communities display a shocking lack of hospitality, don't you think? Okay, Lorenz, I was sort of warming up to you, with the university talk, but what did you do to her? What was that about? Who knows? By the time I finish guessing, the old crone will probably be dead. You're lying! You're lying! Yeah, come on. Tell me the truth. Guess not. Well, what of your early time in university? Every student must study the trivium and quadrivium, yes? Don't know. They represent the lower and upper divisions of classical liberal arts university education. Latin. Oh, right. Latin grammar. Right. Grammar, logic, and rhetoric from the trivium. Right. We've talked about how important rhetoric was. Right. Logic and grammar. Very classic. Arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy from the quadrivium. Huh. Interesting. Did you have a favorite subject? Hey, we get to choose. We're an occultist. Oh my. Maybe love that. We studied theology, but we're an occultist. Oh, these are interesting options. So we've got heavens and earth. So we're an astronomer. We know a great deal about the constellations, heavenly bodies and their movement. Occultist. A soul-endangering amount of theoretical and practical knowledge on alchemy, astrology, theurgy, necromancy, and other magical rites. Orator. We're a skilled rhetorician, teacher, persuader, and public speaker. That'd be a good one. I'm tempted to take that one. I'm going to take one of the top three, because they draw my attention. Logician. Andreas instinctively thinks through the implications of information as he receives it, is adept at spatial analysis, and can easily perform complicated calculations in his head. Or Latinist. Andreas has strong command of Latin grammar and vocabulary. He can also easily recall sententiae antiquae, quoted words of wisdom from the Roman Republic and Empire. I mean, guys, I gotta go. I gotta go with the Latinist. That's what, once again, building my character. I'm not trying to metagame. I'm just going for what's most interesting to me. And so I think Latinist, that's what I would go with. If this was me, it's like, which of these do you want to be? I'd go with Latinist. We've got a strong command of Latin, and we know the history and the words of the old Romans. Let's go with that. I focus on Latin. It's useful in so many ways, but especially for understanding manuscripts. Wonderful! A beautiful language used in the greatest empire of the ancient world. Tell me, what is your favorite sententia? Sententiae are commonly understood moral maxims, typically originating from ancient Rome or Greece. They may be employed as a sort of quasi-logical rhetorical shorthand among educated audiences. Right, so basically, a set of quotations, maxims that educated people commonly understood. Huh. Okay, bro. I mean, This is a good one. But I do like this. Remember to tell the tale of another's kindness many times, but whatever kind deed you do for others, keep quiet. Cato the Younger. Oh, I didn't know that was from Cato. I might not have chosen it had I known. Cato the Younger, an unflinching defender of the Roman Republic. Yeah, but what did his principles get him? Death at the hands of Caesar. I must agree with the Baron here. I am no fan of Cato. An unflinching defender of the Republic. Yes, I would honestly say more an unflinching defender of his own faction at that time, to be honest. And I'd agree, I'd argue he was someone who really, was someone who, I mean, being principled isn't a bad thing, but someone who entirely eschewed practicality and, useful decision-making that would benefit people in favor of his warped morals. That's what I would say. Someone who really did not cause much good. In fact, I would say he stood in the way of compromise. There's at least one instance of times when compromise might have been possible between the factions at the time, Caesarians and Pompeians, or populists and conservatives, and Cato stood in the way of that. So I'm not really a Cato fan. Not quite true, he died at his own hand. He did, he took his own life, but it was after defeat to the Caesarian forces, and, he probably didn't have much longer left anyway. At Utica, I believe. And when Caesar learned of it, he said, Cato, I resent you for your death, for you denied me the chance to spare you. Which is a very Caesar thing to say, right? I mean, Caesar was someone who could be very brutal, in fact was throughout his career, but was someone who showed a shocking amount of mercy and leniency towards his enemies, right? Especially during the Civil War, he was someone who, when he had a chance, he would spare his enemies. Now, you can argue whether he was genuinely being a good guy, or if he was trying to show he was magnanimous. I think it was more the latter than the former, but this is a very Julius Caesar-esque line. A bitter end, but not without a measure of sweetness. And your other studies? Was there anything else you excelled at? Oh, we get another option. Fascinating. I think I'd like to go with orator. I think that could be pretty useful. So we excelled at rhetoric, and we're a skilled teacher, persuader, and public speaker. So we're a big fan of Cato and Cicero. We're the most annoying guy at the university. The art of persuasion, naturally, rhetoric. I assume you studied the Greeks and the Romans both. So I've built a character here who is very invested in ancient history, the ancient world, and Catholic theology. Fits together pretty well. Yes, Aristotle and Cicero, of course, but also Christian thinkers like Augustine and Thomas Aquinas, right? So we want to talk about the philosophy of this age. A lot of it is built on that ancient base, Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, Cicero, in terms of philosophy and rhetoric, but also these more, well, at the time modern, but medieval thinkers who interpreted these ancient thoughts, who translated them into a Christian context, like Augustine, and Thomas Aquinas, I think, in particular. St. Augustine of Hippo was an early Christian philosopher, theologian, and bishop of Hippo Regius. He's recognized as a doctor of the church, and is most known for his works, The City of God, his autobiographic confessions, as well as his development of the doctrine of original sin. And Confessions, that's a text that has been copied by many people throughout history. You have lots of examples of people writing their own confessions, or the Confessions. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, for example, he did that. It's a very influential guy. Thomas Aquinas, an immensely influential philosopher, theologian, and jurist in the tradition of scholasticism. So Augustine lays a lot of the basis for all of this. We want to talk about the medieval world in particular. Thomas Aquinas was a massive influence in that respect during that era of history. So two immensely influential thinkers of the Middle Ages from a, European Christian perspective. True, we have less use for public discourse than senators did in the Roman Republic. Exactly. The doctors of the church weren't trying to persuade politicians, but to move the mind towards Christian truth. Still, the principles remain the same. Invent your arguments, then arrange, style, and internalize them before delivering them to your audience. Once again, I'm really enjoying the history here, but if you're playing this as a, medieval historian, especially of Central Europe, or a Christian, theologist or something like that, I imagine you would especially really love and connect with all the material here. But me, with my, relatively surface level knowledge, I'm finding this really fascinating as well. Splendid, though I suppose an artist has little use for rhetoric, especially in a place such as this. Not true. Rhetoric is also an art, and like other forms of art, it should be created for the audience and its purpose. It can be practiced as easily in the streets of a rural town as in the Curia of Rome. We've got Rome underlined. Though outshone by its northern neighbor Florence, Rome is still the seat of power for the Catholic Church and an impressive center for the arts. Yes, I mean, look, once upon a time, Rome was the center of a great empire. It still has great symbolic significance, but of course, it's not as important as it once was. It has been outshone by many of its neighbors, Florence, Venice. But, especially as and there was a while in which Rome, there really wasn't much left. When you have the decline and fall of the Western Roman Empire, the city itself really entered decline. We're in an era here where Rome, it's still not what it once was, but as we have entered into, the late Middle Ages and the Renaissance, Rome has regained some of its importance, and it is now not the most important, but one of the important Italian cities in terms of art, culture, especially religious matters, of course. Well put. Ah, there's the Abbey. I have good memories of this place, and of Father Matthias. I was sad to hear of his passing. How did you come to know him? How did you come to know Curacao at all? My family have been patrons of Curacao for, I don't know, many generations. Some years ago, I heard that Curacao still had a wonderful library and artisans. Professional artists have taken over most manuscript production, so I was shocked to find an active scriptorium here. Ah, okay. So that's what happened to the scriptoriums. You had professional artists taking over manuscript production, and now, of course, printers are going to take up manuscript production from those professional artists, right? So the change of history and technology. Well, there's not much left of it these days. 2 old men, a young scribe, and me. Oh well, perhaps it's nostalgia that brings me back here. I commissioned a manuscript through Father Gurneau a year ago. I thought I'd stop by and check on the progress. By the way, one of the reasons why having any individual book was so precious, so hard to make them. Though that, once again, it will become easier and easier as we head into the age of print media, which has already begun at the time this game is happening. Wait, are you the artist working on it? It's a prayer book with 20 illustrations. I know the work, but no, I do know the artist well, the venerable brother Piero. How venerable? He still has wits and his skills, if that's what concerns you. That brother Piero has an incredible talent with color. Then I very much look forward to seeing it. I gotta decide whether to eat dinner with this guy or my friend. I gotta say, this guy is fascinating. Good conversation. Never like to break a promise to a homie, but, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, frankly. Miklaus, tend to the horses and the baggage. I'm heading up to the Abbey. Yes, my lord. Well, let's not keep the abbot waiting any longer. Oh, the nuns. Nuns. Quite unusual for a Benedictine house to have monks and nuns, even if they are separated. Benedictine, founded in the 6th century, the Benedictines are a Christian monastic order that observed vows of obedience, poverty, chastity, and stability under the rule of Saint Benedict of Nursia. The church closed most of them centuries ago. But then, Kearsarge is a place out of time in more ways than one. Do you know Mother Cecilia? She seemed to recognize you. We are acquainted, yes. Let's leave it at that. What have you done, man? I gotta say, this guy, fascinating conversation. And that always draws me in individually. But I'm getting some signs you may not be a good guy. I guess we'll have to see. There's two sides to every story, but I'd like to find out what exactly you've been up to, Lorenz. You must be Father Gernot. I'm Lorenz, Baron of... Wow, I love the text. Yes, the Baron of Rothvogel. So wonderful to have you here again. We actually did meet on your last visit. If you say so. I'm not good with remembering faces. Please forgive me, my lord, but I wasn't expecting you for another few days. Maybe having the Baron with me is going to help me out, because, he's the patron of this monastery, so he's sort of the big guy around town, right? Now he's my homie. Yes, I know, but I wrote ahead. I just couldn't wait to see my manuscript. I'm sure it's no trouble. Yes. I mean, no, it's no trouble. Did you want to see it now? Oh, in a moment. I could do with a bit of refreshment, though. May I grab something from the kitchen? What's up with this guy? Yes, certainly, my lord. I will meet you there. What's going on, Gernot? Andreas, I don't know what you were doing with the Baron, but I need you in the scriptorium now. Of hours. A type of illuminated manuscript that contains an abbreviated form of the prayers for the divine office, in addition to other religious texts. Most are relatively plain, but wealthy patrons often commission lavish examples with elaborate illustrations. I think it is a bad time. I'm not trying to get into a fight. Yeah, of course, Father, I'm eager to work. Then get to work. Yeah, alright. Oh. Shit. Damn it. Great. Oh, look at this nerd. Well... Find a way to get paid. Oh, god damn it. Oh, I should have thought of that, huh? Well, that's on me, I suppose. Yeah. Maybe we can still negotiate with Father Gernot here. Maybe not. So let's see. We spent time in Italy. We're a bookworm. We're a theologist, a Latinist, and an orator. What an interesting character. A real nerd I've created. A real... I mean, look, you can't create your character as a historian here, but I think what I did was get as close to a historian as possible, so just kind of recreate myself as close as I could. Oh, man. Alright, we've got some new people, I see. Brother Matthew. I can't even read what that says. Swiss? I think it's Swiss. Sacristan of Kearsarge Abbey. Responsible for maintaining the sacristy, the abbot's treasury. Okay, so he's like the treasurer. And for assisting Father Gernot during the Liturgy of Hours. Oh, I understand. So he's Swiss, and he is the treasurer, essentially. And then Sister Matilda, cellarer for the nuns of Kearsarge Abbey. works often in the Covenant Garden. Did I read that right? I don't know. Ottilia, widow Kemperin. Farmer, widow of Rani Kemperin, lost her home after the death of her husband. I wonder if the Baron had something to do with that. Veronica, daughter of Johann and Hetty Bauer, sister of Hans, close friends with Brigitte Bauerin, and then sister. What does that even say? Zadina? Bohemian nun, assistant to Sister Illuminata in the library. She has a markedly impious attitude toward life at Kearsaw. We'll have to meet her then. Okay, wow. Wow. Well, we discovered a lot today, met many people, read a lot about, medieval and ancient history. The game has really hooked my attention. I mean, I said in the intro, why this game interested me, even though I had not heard of it before one of you guys recommended it. Good recommendation, I gotta say. This is right up my alley. The exact type of thing I would enjoy for a variety of reasons. A game about history, point and click type. Seems like sort of an adventure role-playing game with a lot of text and reading. I love it all. So I think I'm really going to enjoy this one. I've enjoyed what I've played so far. Now, as you can probably tell from this episode, I am quite a yapper, okay? I'm going to be talking through all of this. I'll probably take a lot longer to beat this than most people, but that's just what I do here. So if you enjoyed that, hey, feel free to stick around. You can leave a like on the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. With all that, I hope you guys are having a fantastic day today. We're going to wrap this one up here. I'll see you all back next week with some more Pentiment.